Last Friday, Wikileaks posted some 20,000 emails hacked from the Democratic National Committee's servers that appear to reveal what many have long suspected, that the DNC favored Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary. However, where did these hacked emails come from? What do they actually prove? And what of DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who finally resigned as a result of this leak and was quickly swept up by the Hillary Clinton campaign? Is this a pity prize or a reward for potentially rigging an election? A lot of media outlets, bloggers, and politicians have run with this story over the past week, but let's cut past the hyperbole and look at the facts. This is The Loop. Now, in the interest of transparency, you should know that due to scheduling issues here at SourceFed this week, I'm taping this video early Wednesday morning. So should some new revelation appear between now and Saturday when this video posts, I apologize that it isn't here. And in that case, I will do an update on this enormous ongoing story in next week's edition of The Loop. Wikileaks revealed a searchable database of 19,252 emails with 8,034 attachments this past Friday from the accounts of 7 key DNC staff members, including Finance Director Jordan Kaplan, Finance Chief of Staff Scott Comer, and Communications Director Luis Miranda, that were sent or received between January of 2015 and May of 2016. While there are most definitely items of interest, from the damning to the bafflingly strange, like this email from a female staffer asking a male staffer to, quote, eat my butt, her words not mine, many of the emails seem pretty standard, coordinating media opportunities, scheduling lunches, and making staffers aware of articles both damaging and positive. The surprising thing to me, actually, based on the headlines that I've seen, is how few of the emails actually concern Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. Bernie is mentioned in 2,235 of the over 19,000 emails, or about 11.6%. In fact, Hillary Clinton's campaign occupies only a little more space than that, 2,893 emails, or 15.02%. There are several emails that show poor judgment and poor conduct. For example, one much publicized email is about the creation of a satirical fake Craigslist ad asking women to apply to jobs in Trump's organization, who must be hot and must be okay with a kiss on the lips or being groped by Trump himself if hired. I get it. It's a joke, if not necessarily a funny one, but is it the place of a political party that is supposedly protecting and defending the interests of the people to be making it? No. Leave the jokes to us. We promise that they will be at least marginally funnier. At least marginally. There's also a definite flippancy towards Bernie Sanders' campaign in the press. And most damningly, it's very clear from these emails that the DNC had an established relationship with the Hillary Clinton campaign and considered Bernie Sanders to be an obstacle in the way of her nomination. They were not objective and were downright hostile to Sanders throughout his campaign. One of the worst and most publicized emails from the hack is from DNC CFO Brad Marshall, who wrote to the committee's CEO Amy Dacey, "For Kentucky and West Virginia, can we get someone to ask his belief? Does he believe in a God?" He had skated on saying that he has a Jewish heritage. I think I read he is an atheist. This could make several points difference with my peeps. My Southern Baptist peeps would draw a big difference between a Jew and an atheist. Oh, homeboy, your peeps in the Southern Baptist Church would trip if they knew homeboy was an atheist. The only thing less believable than that Brad Marshall has peeps is any claim that he wasn't interested in derailing Sanders, and weaponizing his religion is a low blow at best, dog. There are also many emails that show attempts to smear the Sanders campaign, or at least disrupt the narrative that the DNC was being unfair to the candidate. One email from DNC National Press Secretary Mark Paustenbach to Luis Miranda read, "Wondering if there's a good Bernie narrative for a story, which is that Bernie never ever had his act together, that his campaign was a mess. Specifically, DWS, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, had to call Bernie directly in order to get the campaign to do things because they'd either ignored or forgotten to do something critical. She had to call Bernie after the data breach to make his staff respond to our concerns. Even then, they didn't get back to us, which is why we had to shut off their access in order to get them to finally let us know exactly how they snooped around HFA, Hillary for America's, data. It's not a DNC conspiracy, it's because they never had their act together." Paustenbach is referring to the DNC temporarily refusing the Sanders campaign access to a key list of likely Democratic voters in each state, a list vital to campaign fundraising and strategy. They denied the campaign access because they accused the campaign of illegally accessing confidential voter information gathered by the Clinton campaign. This claim was never proven, but the lack of access to the list could have hurt Sanders' momentum in the early months of 2016. Another email that stood out to me is one from Debbie Wasserman Schultz to Mark Paustenbach and Luis Miranda that read, "BTW, Nancy Cordes had the most puzzled look on her face when she asked me to respond to Sanders campaign manager Jeff Weaver saying that I'd been throwing shade at Sanders. I said, well, my response to that is #SMH. She paused for a second and looked very confused. Wasserman Schultz followed this with 2 cry laughing emojis. Miranda responded, well, to that I say, lols, with a Z. This isn't a sign of wrongdoing, but it is a little troubling that top DNC staffers are having such a totally fun time mocking the press, questioning their now confirmed dismissal of Sanders in general. It's not lols with a Z, Luis. It's not lols with a Z at all. However, despite the clear annoyance with Sanders, dismissal of Sanders, and anger at the very true narrative that they disliked Sanders, at least as of this morning, there's no proof in any of these emails that Debbie Wasserman Schultz or the DNC used their resources to either boost Hillary Clinton's campaign, hurt Bernie Sanders' campaign, or rig the election, as many media outlets and Republican nominee Donald Trump have repeatedly alleged, which would make the visible frustration at those accusations found in these emails more understandable, if, of course, they hadn't spent the previous 12 months dismissing the candidate repeatedly to the press and to each other. But still, to be clear, bias? Most definitely. Poor conduct? Most definitely. F***ing weird youth speak and poor use of emojis? Most definitely. But election fraud or rigging of any kind? Still unproven, and as of this morning, unfounded, at least within these emails. For example, one email that I saw shared as an aha moment was an email from Justin Klein of the Clinton campaign to DNC National Finance Director Jordan Kaplan, referring to 4 checks from Native American PACs that he was passing along to the DNC for their convention fund. 3 of them were for $100,200, the Federal Election Commission limit for non-multi-candidate PACs. But one check was for $144,100, way exceeding that limit. He then said to divide the funds from the check so that $100,200, the legal limit, would go to the convention fund, while the remainder would go to the DNC building fund. 3 minutes later, Kaplan responded harshly saying, "Don't send me an email like this again. You know, Alex, don't be a dick." Now, is this a DNC operative shutting down a potential FEC violation, or is he just covering his own ass? I will point out that while this is being described as a potential FEC violation, if you actually read the fine print on the FEC website, this isn't actually true, not one bit. The FEC guidelines state that $100,200 is the donation limit per account per year. The convention account and the building account are separate, and a PAC can donate the full amount to both of them without violating FEC guidelines. So where did the emails come from? It's still ultimately unclear, but the majority of government officials, all the way up to President Obama himself, believe that Russian hackers gave the emails to Wikileaks. This is backed up by CrowdStrike, who previously invested the Guccifer 2.0 hacks just mere weeks ago. It is believed that these hacks were different and were carried out by 2 groups backed by the Russian government, which, if true, is a much bigger story than what's in the emails themselves. If this is true, this is a foreign nation actively trying to affect the results of an American election and potentially plant a more favorable leader here. At least, that's what President Obama alleged. In a statement Tuesday, the president told NBC, "What we do know is that Russians hack our systems, not just government systems, but private systems. What the motives were in terms of the leaks, all that, I can't say directly. What I do know is that Donald Trump has repeatedly expressed admiration for Vladimir Putin." Now, of course, the Trump campaign has called these allegations absurd, but Trump has praised Putin as a strong leader in the past and told the New York Times as recently as last week that he wouldn't always feel compelled to defend our allies in NATO from potential Russian attacks like those in Crimea in 2014. Not to mention that this very morning, Wednesday, Donald Trump called for Russia to find and leak the 30,000 missing emails from Hillary Clinton's much discussed private server. Mr. Trump just spent days denying any connection or favoritism towards Russia, and now he's actively asking them to hack his opponent? Look, I think that we should find out what's in those emails as much as anybody, but this is clearly wrong, right? And finally, let's briefly discuss the recently ousted Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she of the cry-laughing emoji and the outright lies about chair throwing at the Nevada Democratic Convention. While there were threats made against her after the event itself, there was no violence inside of the convention hall. That's a lie. She's been a lightning rod for controversy, one of the most hated figures in American politics, as the DNC has suffered blunder after blunder under her stewardship. She resigned her post on Sunday, saying that she'd formally vacate after the convention. However, she didn't leave without a fight. President Obama himself had to call her and push her to step down. Many DNC staffers corroborated the story that she strongly opposed leaving her post, even after all of the mistakes laid at her feet. After she announced that she was stepping down, the Clinton campaign announced that Wasserman Schultz would be appointed as an honorary chair of the campaign, which led to several cries of corruption and cronyism, and, yeah, it should be looked at. It should be noted that honorary chair is a position of zero power. An honorary chair of President Obama's 2012 campaign was actress Eva Longoria. I don't think that she had any say over policy, do you? Do you know how pointless anything with the word honorary is in front of it? Kermit the Frog has an honorary doctorate in amphibious letters. Really, it's not a job, it's a courtesy position. There's no proof that the position stems from anything nefarious, and if you read between the lines, based on Wasserman Schultz's resistance to leave her post, it was a carrot to get her to step down. Get out of the way and we'll give you a position in name only so that you can save face. That is cronyism, straight up. But it's also a far cry from outright corruption. I will say this though, after everything we've seen, after all of the accusations of corruption leveled at the Hillary campaign, I have to believe that they're not so stupid that they would hire Debbie Wasserman Schultz for a position without realizing what people would say. And I can't help but believe, rightly or wrongly, that they had to do it, that she wouldn't leave without it. And it would be less damaging to have her on the campaign in an honorary position than to still have her in power. Rest facts, this opinion being clear. In closing, nothing about this hack is good. What we found is disturbing. Where it came from is disturbing. And the aftermath of it is disturbing. But it's also not the smoking gun that many are championing it to be. And if the DNC did in fact do anything illegal to help Hillary Clinton win the nomination, it is still unproven. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think of the DNC hack? Have you actually looked at the emails for yourself? You can check it out in a link in the description below. I'm Matt Lieberman, and until next time, you're in the loop. Thanks for watching.
Like, and I like don't want to be like,
is negative. It won't sway people who have already decided to vote for him.